Welcome to Week in Horror.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
The podcast that deep dives all the films you love.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The week they dropped in horror history.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
With your horror hosts, JL.
When a shirtless Sam Elliott with no mustache takes out an alligator with an oar, that's the kind of movie I'm looking for.
Eugene.
And we're just casually just like, yeah, so this is probably the best way to go, light someone on fire with gasoline.
Alex.
It would not be an original lineup if I didn't have fucking technical difficulty.
Johnny O.
Now, it's not in Amityville, or wherever, it's Amityville.
And Aaron.
They got manure to work with and nothing grew from it.
News, trailers, trivia, special guests, and more.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Live show every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central at youtube.com/weekinhorror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
And wherever you listen to podcasts.
One by one, we will take you.
Week in Horror. Stay scared. Welcome, horror fans. It is Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. That means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast where it is always an excellent day for an exorcism. And if you, dear horror fanatic, are listening to us at the top of the week, remember we do this live here on YouTube every single Wednesday. Come hang out with us, see all the interesting, weird stuff that our editor doesn't want you to see, because live shows are always the most fun. This week, we are covering select horror films released July 16th through July 22nd. Thank you all so much for joining us. I am JL, and I will be holding the fort down tonight. That's probably the reason why we started immediately on time, is because it's me. So, good to see everyone. I hope everyone is having a fantastic evening. What an excellent and amazing week. So much stuff that we want to cover before we get into tonight's selections, but I will be holding the fort, and I'm so happy to see everyone in the live chat there. First and foremost, let's get up that Patreon banner. There's all those amazing people who are our patrons who help us support this show. We love every single one of you. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you. We couldn't do stuff like release the trailer that you recently saw for our latest production that Eugene directed and Johnny O starred in. And he also edited. He's also editing and finishing up doing the sound work. But he was in it. And Eugene directed it. And I wrote it. We couldn't do stuff like that if it wasn't for our amazing patrons. Y'all made that happen. I cannot wait so we can show you the finished product. It's going to be really, really awesome. So very, very cool. How is everyone doing? I hope you all are well. Before we dive in, let me get that prepped. And let's take a look and see who we have in the live chat tonight. I see we got Casey Cooper was first in the house. This is well met, and 64 more subs needed. Absolutely, 64 more subs until we hit 1,000. Thank you very much, Casey. Travis Brown is here. Says, good evening, horror freaks and geeks. Good to see you, Travis. Thanks so much for being here. And I hope you all enjoyed the new Week in Horror front row. It's a new thing that we are incorporating. We finally got into the rotation now that we got it done, where we sit down and we bring guests on and we chat with them. And so because it was always really, really difficult to bring a guest in, it was challenging, I'll say, to bring a guest in and have them watch the movies, because professionals, they're busy. So fitting in 4 movies can be difficult. So we wanted to do front row so we could sit down and just have interviews and chats with them. So we hope that y'all dug that. The first guest was Kasim Guillotine. So I hope you all enjoyed that. And of course, all of our patrons got early access to that as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. That was a fun little chat between Kasim and me and Johnny. Let's see. Brian Powell, good evening. Good to see you. Angel Rivera as well. What up, ghouls and gals? Good to see you, Angel. Thanks so much for being here. Sarcasm says, super chat. I will be covering that here in just a moment. I will be covering that momentarily. Charlie Welch is here. Says, yo, creepers. Good to see you, Welchie. The only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you, boss. Hope you're doing well. Tony Regime says, hello, everyone, with the obligatory ghost. Appreciate that. McKinnon Mitchell Studios. Good to see you. McKinnon says, this fly needs more Jeff Goldblum. But we have Vincent Price. but we will get to that. We will get to that. There's an interesting conversation to be had there. Sherry Tilley, good to see you. Says, hey, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, Sherry. Ivy Gentry's in the house. Been here, been a minute, Ivy, but good to see you. Thanks so much for hanging out. Colin, definitely not Cromwell, says, hey, everyone. Good to see you, bud. Strange Lex 790 says, hello, everyone. Good to see you, Strange Lex. Thanks so much for being here. Travis Brown says, another solo stream. Whoop, whoop. Let's hope I have the energy. I'm pretty sure I do, but you never know. You never know how these things play out. I get you. It's like a marathon. You have to pace yourself. You can't just like energy, but at the end you're just like, oh, last movie. You can't do that. You got it. You have to pace yourself through the whole thing, but you can't do it so much that you're like, that you have dead air, like you're stretching it out. You can't do it like that. You have to push. You have to keep it going, keep it paced. Not too much, not too little. It's a challenge. It really, really is. Which is probably why I'm the only one that does them. I kid. The other guys are really busy with the stuff there. Matter of fact, I think Johnny O is on set like right now until like the 16th. So he's going to be on set in, I think, San Antonio until the 16th. And then Eugene's got his stuff going on. Alex as well. Aaron is getting his stuff sorted out. So here we be, or here I be, really. Here I be holding down the fort. I will always hold down the fort for you, dear horror fanatics. I always will. Oh, let's see who we got. Who else we got in the chat? Sarcasm is here. Good to see you, Sarcasm. Thanks so much for being here. Robert Biter says, ooh, The Fly. That truly scared me as a kid. It's a good one. It really, really is. But we'll get into it. I promise you we'll get into it. Yes, help me. And then, so, thank you, Ivy. I am glad to be here as well. Glober Mom is here. Says, hi, everyone. Good to see you, Glober Mom. Travis Brown says, Johnny complaining the use of turd polisher in the new project. Yes. There's a story there. Suit Kettle says, waiting, hoping for Surstroming the second stink. I have to have a reason to do Surstroming again. I really, really do. And I see we've got some things I have to talk about. I'm going to point those out here in just a minute. Let me get through the people who are there. I'm already through it. So I see it. Yes. So first and foremost, the things that we want to cover, I guess because it's all the news is already broken. So I see it. So yes, channel memberships are now available on this channel. Apparently YouTube reduced the requirements for YouTube channels for channels to be monetized. And Week in Horror is now officially monetized. We have channel memberships available and super chats available if you choose to do so. We finally arrived. It took almost 4 full seasons to get there. And when I say seasons, I mean, when I say like four full seasons, I mean, I mean 52 episodes in a season. So it took literally this episode right here, this episode we're doing right now that I'm currently doing is episode 199. This is our 199th episode. Next week is episode 200, but this is our 199. It took 199 episodes, along with all of the Bloodbath debates and all of the After Darks and all this stuff, to get the channel monetized. And here we are. We have arrived. Week in Horror has officially arrived as monetized on YouTube. And I can see the amazing channel memberships pouring in. Of course, they're 99 cents to support the channel. I have not added all of the emojis and all of the channel badges. I need to add all those. I just wanted to get it started so everybody would see it. And of course, there's a thank you right there from all of us at Week in Horror. But I see, to call them out because they're amazing people, Casey Cooper, Colin Definitely Not Cromwell, Sarcasm, and Charlie Welch have all become new members of the channel. You all rule. So thank you very, very much for that support. So you can support here via YouTube with the channel membership and maybe super chats whenever you like. They're totally up to you. Or you can support via Patreon, because Patreon has additional content, early access stuff, behind the scenes stuff, which we think validates those increased prices, that justifies the increased prices of Patreon. But you can support us here for Week in Horror for 99 cents. That's pretty much it. So you can do that here. So as a matter of fact, what we're thinking of doing is, now that we're available here for 99 cents, we're thinking about eliminating the $1, eliminating the $1 support over at Patreon, so that people can just do it via YouTube. But we may or may not. We haven't decided yet. We're still like mulling it over as far as like how much Patreon takes out, how much YouTube takes out, and what's most viable. So we just wanted to get this set up and running right now. So thank you, Travis Brown. Yep, we're on the precipice. This is the penultimate episode before episode 200. 200 shows, 200 episodes. We haven't missed a week, which this is a feather in my cap. This is a feather in all our caps. This is something that I take a lot of pride in. We haven't missed a week since September of 2019. Every single week. We've changed days. We used to release on Tuesdays, then we used to release on Tuesdays, then we released on Thursdays. Now we settled on Wednesday, middle of the week. And so but we haven't missed a week. Since September of 2019, we have not missed a week, and I am very, very proud of that because of the dedication of this crew of Eugene, Alex, Johnny O, Aaron, and my beautiful wife and editor and producer Angela, who have kept this show going, who have helped me keep the show going every single week. I'm absolutely freaking excited about it. We're finally monetized. We're at the cusp of 200 episodes, about to close out season 4. And looking at season 5, what new things will that bring? Not to mention film productions, behind the scenes, all kinds of stuff. All of that is ramping up, and that is all thanks to every single one of you. So, and I do hope you all enjoyed the trailer for 11 to 6, which we just recently dropped. I hope you all like that very, very much, and I cannot wait to showcase the actual full finished production for you. You all are going to fucking love it. It's going to be great. It's always fun to see what you've written come to life, and the way Eugene and Jorg and Johnny bring that to life. I don't think I could be luckier to be working with the talented crew and the individuals that I have gotten the opportunity to work with. Ever since Eugene and I hit it off during the 48-hour film festival, ever since that brief moment where he was brought in as a DP and I was brought in as a writer, and we just kind of clicked. That's rare. That's very rare to happen. And you always try to run that and really try to maximize each other's potential. And Eugene has done that for me. Eugene has maximized every effort that I get to make. So, it's a huge, giant thank you to every single one of them. And also to be for putting up with my shit as the director and stuff. There's trying to keep things on schedule and logistics and stuff. But they put up with me, they put up with my shit, and they have elevated this show way beyond what we anticipated. So thank you. A huge thank you to them, and a huge thank you to all of you. Also, Denova and Nemo813, Denova28 and Nemo13 have become new channel members. Thank you so much. We do appreciate that. Oh, and NANA as well. Thank you very much. We do appreciate that. You guys rock. Thank you for all the support. You rule. Colin Cromwell says, the horror genre YouTube needs more love. The least I could do. Man, you rule, Colin. We do appreciate that. Sir Cab says, my very first YouTube membership. I'm happy that I saved my virginity for JL. Thank you, Sir Chasm. You rule. Thank you. And we are. You have to apologize. If I cough, before I went on, I had a granola bar. So, and it's a really, really good one, too. Klondike. No, not a Klondike bar. People say, ice cream is not granola. No, Klondike. Klondike crunchy granola bar. I had one of those, and so it's still a little, it may make me cough. So, but just, let me see here. Yeah, Travis Brown's, wow, you guys are flooding in. That's amazing. Thank you all so much. You all rock. Denova, Nemo813, NANA. Did I miss Travis? Calling they're flooding in. I didn't get a notification on you, Trav. Yeah, Kodiak. Not Klondike. I was thinking Klondike, but yes. But Kodiak granola bar. So it may make me cough a little bit. Just in case. Because, it's granola bar. But anyway, I see. Casey Kuro, Colin gifted 10 memberships. Thank you so much, Colin. Those notifications I do not get. Not yet to StreamYard. But I do see everybody else's. So thank you, Colin, Death Not Cromwell, for gifting out those memberships. We do appreciate that. Look at that. You guys are amazing. Thank you all so much. Can't wait to add all the cool emojis and stuff. So now that we have broken the news on that we are officially monetized and we have channel memberships now, so you can support us via YouTube or you can support us via Patreon, however you like. All kinds of cool stuff coming up behind the scenes. Well, for our Patreon supporters, you're going to get early access to all the stuff behind 11, the upcoming productions we have, which is going to be a lot of fun. But we have a couple things we want to talk about before we get started on tonight's selections. So let's dive into them first and foremost. And remember, we want to get y'all's opinions on these things, definitely down in the comment section or at weekinhorror@gmail.com, or of course here in the live chat. Oh, Travis, it's a pleasure having you here, bud. We love having you. Everybody, you all rock, but we love having you here, Trav. You make it. Let me see here. So first and foremost, big hot news that we kind of came across that I find really, really interesting was that obviously I think a lot of you were pretty much familiar that Peacock, the streaming service Peacock, is dropping a Crystal Lake prequel series. So, and apparently Adrian King has teased a release window for when that will probably be taking place, when that will probably be dropping. Apparently in 2024 is when that will drop, but it is a prequel series to the original Friday the 13th. We don't have a whole ton of details about it, but we have new Friday the 13th content coming out soon. So with this new franchise, with the new series coming out, we don't know how it's going to play. It's a prequel series, so we don't know how much Jason's going to play into it or whatever. So I don't know if it. Obviously, can you have a Friday the 13th? Can you have Crystal Lake without Jason Voorhees? I don't know. Right now, from what I've seen in responses, audiences, like the horror community is divided. Some have a lot of really, really high hopes for it. Some people don't. Some people think it's just a cash grab, trying to grab on elements that are open to be capitalized on, that have not been tied up in right. Now that the rights have pretty much been settled all over the place regarding Jason and regarding Jason Voorhees with the mask, young Jason, Camp Crystal Lake, and all this stuff. Now that all that's been sorted and settled, now we're getting this. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how Adrian King is involved in it. And there's too much that we'll get more details, obviously, as time goes by, but we have no idea. So I don't know. But definitely let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com, what you think of the upcoming Peacock streaming service Crystal Lake prequel series. I also am kind of confused, and I am. I'm kind of confused. Javier Hara, good to see you, says Jello. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. Really, really do. All right, but that was a big thing. I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Next thing up is a new trailer dropped, and I want to show it to y'all. So I want to show you this new trailer. I hope you all enjoy it because some of you are really, really big fans of this particular franchise, and I think you might dig this. Let's check out this trailer for The Nun 2.
There's something wrong with this school. Something doesn't feel right.
Sophie, what happened?
I think there's something here that's not meant to be.
Hey, it's a Farmiga. Yep.
What did you see?
I saw a nun.
Cockroaches everywhere. Always creepy.
What's she doing? She's standing there.
This thing, it's come back for me.
This demon was once an angel. Rejected by God. Stripped of power.
It wants that power back. It's okay to be scared. I'm scared too.
You send that thing back to hell.
All right, so that is The Nun 2. Looking forward to that. Now, there have been some comments in there, so definitely let us know if you are looking forward to The Nun 2. We definitely want to know what you think about it. But she lost her wimple so easily. This truly in Wakefield, she did, and good to see you. Thanks so much for being here tonight. The big thing on this one is that, yes, and Sarcasm brings it up, I'll not contribute to Ed and Lorraine Warren, so pirate or free streaming only. Don't recommend pirating. Just have to put that out there just because, a lot of people other than, Ed and Lorraine Warren, they're gone. Okay. Their estate doesn't really make money off these films. The rights have been purchased. They've already made their money. So they're not getting any more. And by this point, they've extended the Conjuring universe out to the point where they're not profiting off these things anymore. This is all Juan and Lee Wannell and studios behind it. So this is not them. So when it comes down to it, you don't have to worry about money going to them. Now, the initial stories that kind of birthed the Conjuring universe are based upon the files of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and we have some societal problems with them because they were grifters and they were taking advantage of families that were having they're having real problems, and they just exacerbated them by chalking up all this supernatural mumbo jumbo. So there is a problem. There are many people do have a problem with that. However, on the flip, just like separating movies like Jeepers Creepers from their creeper creators, just like that for example, I think that we can separate movies like The Nun from the inspirations behind them or what was going on behind them. And for one, I'm looking forward to the further details into Valak and how the Valak that they present in the Nun films, or pretty much in the Conjuring universe, is a slightly artistically stylized version of the real Valak that occurs in actual mythology. So they've made a few artistic changes. It's artistic license, it's a movie. What are you going to do? Just to make it more appealing to movie audiences and to horror audiences. So I'm looking forward to where they're going. Plus, the Conjuring films always do really good camera work, so I'm really curious. Obviously, the Conjuring 2 and Conjuring 2 and Conjuring 3 both had some really stellar work, and of course with allusions to Valak that were in that as well. And of course, the camera work they do when doing the appearance there are a lot of jump scares, and I know people are tired of jump scares and shit, but there's a lot of really, really interesting camera work and a lot of really, really solid editing, which are excellent examples of how to pull these things off. I've learned as much from those films, from Wan's and Wannell's direction, and of course their influence in the editing room, that I have, doing it myself. So I like them for what they can teach me as a filmmaker, and I like them just because, they're spooky. I dig that. And occasionally, even someone as hardened as me, even someone as hardened as I am, still occasionally a well-timed jump scare will catch me, especially if I don't see it coming, which is rare, but occasionally one will get me. So hopefully we see a little bit of that. I'm looking forward to it because I like to see more mythology, more backstory on Valak, and to see where they're going to go with that. And plus, I'm a huge fan of Tessa Farmiga ever since American Horror Story. She's a fantastic actress, and I loved her in Final Girls. She was fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to that film coming out. But some may not, and that's okay. If you're not a fan of the Conjuring universe, not a fan of the Insidious films, not a fan of what Juan and Wennell have built, but let us know. I'd like to hear your opinions. Let us know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com if you're looking forward to The Nun 2. Not to mention, and Travis just mentioned that Javier Hara mentioned, there's a new trailer for Insidious: The Red Door, which is supposedly the final film in the Insidious franchise. So that one's closing up. It looks like the Conjuring universe might be closing up with Nun 2. I don't think we're going to get a Crooked Man spinoff. That looks like it kind of fell through. So I don't know, but we'll see the future. We'll see what comes in the future. But let us know if you're looking forward to Nun 2 or Insidious: The Red Door. So, I think that might already be out, or if you liked it or enjoyed it. But definitely Nun 2 this September. So looking forward to that. Let's see, got some new people who jumped in here. I saw Facty is here. Good to see you. Facty says now that JL is done with the intros, I can say hi, y'all. That way JL won't waste all his excitement while saying my name. I will always be excited to say your name, Facty. Always. I always will be. And Liam Wakefield, you're right. Never trust a magazine rack. Ever. Oh, good to see everybody. So many amazing people in here. Let's see. Joshua Lee's here. Shoot, I'm late. Not really. We're just going over some stuff. But yeah, you can catch it on the replay. But we haven't gotten into the movies just yet. Liam Wakefield says it's Catholic D&D, Demons and Devotees. Absolutely. I could agree with that. I actually would. And Joshua Lee, yes, I am also looking forward to Last Voyage of the Demeter. I am. I love me a Dracula movie. So I'm looking forward. This is going to be a lot of fun. Ivy Gentry says, even my mom, not a horror fan, likes all of these movies. They're entertaining. You can get it like that. They're popcorn films. They absolutely are. They do serve a purpose. And occasionally, just occasionally, a good jump scare will get me. They will. It just depends upon the timing. You've seen them so many times, it's kind of like you anticipate them. You just physiologically, you can feel the jump scare coming. But occasionally, they'll get me. It'll be, okay, you got me there. Sir Cab says there's a big difference between startling and scary. A Serbian film is scary. Conjuring film startle. Very true. This is very true. Absolutely. And of course, we already did the update that channel memberships are now available on the channel, so you can support us via YouTube as well as Patreon. So thank you to all of the channel members who have joined. You all rock. I do appreciate that. Absolutely amazing. And of course, the last bit of news that we have some Discord update news. For those who are active in the Discord server, we have added horror news to the Discord server. So there's a new channel that does shout outs. It is where we're basically any news that comes down the pipeline through their RSS feeds will pop up in the horror news channel. If you don't want to get those notifications, just adjust your notifications so that you don't get push notifications to your phone. You can set up that in your Discord settings, but we now have horror news come directly to the Discord server. Now that I got figured out, we can add more as soon as I upgrade the Discord to Premium, which I'm planning on doing here soon. So lots of good horror stuff. We're getting news from Bloody Disgusting, but we will add more RSS feeds as soon as we jump it up to Premium, and of course, bumping it up Nitro over on Discord is, for those who are familiar with it, we do appreciate everyone who's supported that. So yeah. So looking forward to that. There's been some interesting stuff that's come out. Some good-looking movies. Like, I wasn't aware of this once. Is Don't Look Away, exclusive trailer. Killer mannequin stalks the streets in It Follows style horror movie. I don't like the comparison to It Follows already, but a mannequin that stalks everybody that's very Weeping Angels, that feels very Weeping Angels to me. I don't know, but the picture looks cool. I haven't seen the trailer yet. I want to. We may look at that next week. So, but yeah, all kinds of good stuff in there. So horror news now coming directly to the Week in Horror Discord. Absolutely. Tony Regime says, I don't do films with nuns and since Armchair Thriller episode Quiet as a Nun. Oh. Nuns. I've loved the idea of it ever since the Penguin in Blues Brothers. Always loved it. Always loved it. Joshua Lee says, did you already show the trailer for your guys' movie 11 to 6? We have not shown it. We just dropped it 4 days ago. So it dropped in between. It did. Why? Do y'all want to see it? Is that what y'all... Let me see here. Is that something y'all want to see? Do y'all want to see is there anybody in the live chat who has not seen the trailer for 11 to 6? Let me know, because I'm not sure. Because we put it up on Week in Horror. So I'm not 100% sure. Mannequin stalking people is more like the Autons from Doctor Who than the Weeping Angels. Oh, good point. Good point. I can see that, Tony. Excellent. Do you guys want to see it? Oh wow, I wasn't planning on playing it because it's up on Week in Horror, but we could definitely play it. We definitely could. Give me 1 second. And give me just a moment because I have it buried. You sure you guys want to see it? Okay. Here it is. Here's the trailer for 11 to 6. I didn't have this cut for the horror TV, but here we go.
Don't you have that date tonight? Yeah. Oh, go have fun. I got it. Are you sure? I can't stay.
There's Precious and Desi doing their thing. love that camera work.
Never gonna get in here, asshole! Get out of here, get out!
What are you talking about? I just get my...
It's not safe!
I don't even know who you are.
So that's the trailer. Or teaser, you could say, but that is the current trailer that we have for 11 to 6. I hope you all dug that. But yeah. So, but we also put that up on Week in Horror, so you can go and look at it. It's in, it's in the trailers playlist. But yeah, that's what's been released so far. We cannot wait to show you the full production. So, thank you to Destiny Baldwin. Thank you to Precious Peck. Thank you to Sean Michael Beasley, and of course, director Eugene Hawkins, Johnny O, who is in it, and then of course all the amazing, magnificent people behind the scenes, a part of the crew, Jorg, Jorg Victor Steinslaus, who rocked it as cinematographer. So you guys, all of them, fucking rocked. Just insanely talented people. So there's too many people to list, but God, yeah, they're all amazing. So we wouldn't be able to do that without them. Cannot wait. I cannot wait till we unveil the actual deal. So, Dr. Nimrod is here. Good to see you. Says, how do JL? I am doing quite fine. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Nimrod. I do appreciate that. Yes, we're definitely typecasting Johnny O. We absolutely are. But yeah. Yeah, it's a love story, sort of, in a way, if you call murderous obsession love. But yeah, we're really, really excited about that. Big time. All right. So let me get back to it. And that's pretty much it. That was all the updates we had for the week. Is a bunch of stuff, trailers we wanted to watch. And of course, Discord updates. We have horror news there, and you can get all the updates, and we'll add more RSS feeds as well from like Fangoria and Rue Morgue and all kinds of places, so that you guys can get the updates on all of them. And then of course, channel memberships now available here, Week in Horror. It's it's been an amazing ride. It's been fantastic. About to close out season 4, episode 200 next week. We just got monetized. It's looking really, really good. New production about to drop. It's absolutely amazing. Is it murderous obsession the definition of love? I think that Tony Regime, I think that depends upon where the obsession is directed. If it's directed at the person who is loved, then maybe not. But if it's directed at somebody else, to protect the person, possibly. I think there's an argument there. I think there really, really is. All right. Well, as my amazing co-host Alex likes to state, this is a horror movie podcast. We're here to talk about horror movies. So how about we dive into some damn horror movies? Fan-fucking-tastic. All right. First and foremost, we have released July 16th, 1958. 58. Fucking love 58. I love 50s horror films. We have The Fly. Let's check out this trailer.
Will everyone in the theater hold on firmly to his seat, please? Stop it! Stop it! I'm Vincent Price. What unearthly horror did that girl gaze upon? What manner of incredible thing walked beneath that hood? It would be unfair at this time to show you any more of what went on in that laboratory where a man actually dared to play God. So fantastic, words can't begin to describe it. You must see it with your own eyes to believe it. When The Fly comes your way.
It isn't like any other fly I've ever seen.
No! 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 Please let me look at the fly! I've killed Andre. Please help me. Call the police and...
The charge can only be murder.
There were no mistresses. I had no lovers.
Why did you kill him?
God, don't let it get out.
Inspector, it's in the garden. Come quickly.
As God is my witness, I saw the thing. It's unbelievable. I shall never forget that scream as long as I live.
The fly's on its way. Watch out for it. It's far beyond anything your mind could ever conceive.
CinemaScope. Love it. Yes, that was The Fly from 1958. You could see in the 50s, that's how you established that your movie had credibility, is you just brought on Vincent Price and he just told you it's far too shocking for you to watch. And, actually, that was more Peter Cushing. But yeah, so you bring on Vincent Price and he just tells you, oh, we can't show you this. It's just too awful. You have to go see the movie. That's how you have fucking credibility. That's how you give some credibility to your film. Is you just bring on Vincent Price. So yes, we're talking about the 1958 version of The Fly, the original, directed by Kurt Newman, screenplay by James Clavell, and starring Al Hedison, Patricia Owens, the legendary Vincent Price, and Herbert Marshall, along with Kathleen Freeman, Betty Lou Gerson, Charles Herbert, Eugene Borden, and Torben Meyer. So the film follows a scientist, and it's set in Canada. It follows scientist Andre Delambre, and it's told in flashback as Andre's body is found with his head and his arm crushed in a hydraulic press. And his wife, Helena, I believe, Helena is brought in for questioning, and she basically tells the story of like kind of what happened. And it's so crazy that essentially he was working on a transportation device, a matter transportation device, and unfortunately combined his atoms out of the fly, and his head and his left arm were replaced with the fly parts, and vice versa. The fly got his head and his left arm. And then of course madness ensues, and eventually his attempts to fix it fail, and then that's where we get to the story. And then of course the epic scene at the end when they find the white-headed fly out there in the garden with the giant brown spider. And the epic scene, let's all say it together, help me. So, but of course, legendary scene in horror, and fantastic film. Really, really enjoyed this one. So a big thing about this, and going back and watching classic old 1950s ones, is that this film in itself is a magnificent exploration of the macabre aspects of science. Back in the late 1950s, post World War II, the idea of obviously we're getting a lot of nuclear monsters, we're getting the ideas of what radiation could do, but with the exploration of nuclear technology and breakthroughs coming in technology ever since post World War II. Technology was increasing at an exponential rate. It's getting, big advancements were coming, faster and faster and faster. With society, with a global society breaching into these new areas of science, opened up new worlds of exploration. And of course, the tales of like H.G. Wells and previous authors were becoming more and more closer to reality. So more and more movies were being made exploring what could potentially be done, like the effects. Now that we're understanding things like genetics and we're understanding things like time and and physics, we can then breach out into these fictional stories as to what we could do if we could harness these things for ourselves. Dr. Manhattan style, like if the freaking fundamental forces had a will. And so in this particular one, it's all about understanding those laws and then utilizing them to our benefit, but going so far as to be like in our hubris, we wind up destroying ourselves, which is summed up beautifully by Vincent Price, who for some reason had a tendency when he was in a movie to give these beautiful little sum ups at the end of the film. Like virtually every Vincent Price one, where he's a major driving force in the narrative, will have these beautiful little sum ups as to the message behind what was going on. Like in this one, Francois, because he plays Francois, he tells Philippe he was searching for the truth. He almost found a great truth, but for one instant he was careless. The search for the truth is the most important work in the whole world and the most dangerous, which is true, is that we cannot allow allow our eye or our eyes to be bigger than our stomach. We cannot bite off more than we can chew. Life will always find a way. And so we have to be careful in searching for the truth, lest we stumble. And then in these new unexplored territories, we completely, wreck everything and destroy others and ourselves. So I loved and that's a beautiful thing about 1950s. I would say about the 1950s when it came to science fiction horror, was that our understanding of these fields was not as advanced as obviously they are today. So we could play in these things. And these were truly terrifying concepts to modern audiences. The idea that once we understood, when the public began to understand, like in this movie, particularly in genetics, just moving DNA around, what DNA was. Now that we've quantified it, now we can play around with it in a fictional setting. And so the idea that like mixing the atoms, like that hybridization and shit, is terrifying. Now imagine if you told someone in the 50s today that we now today have things like spider goats. We have goats that produce spider silk in their udders, that we can milk them and get spider silk out of them as well as milk. That terrifies some people. We have glow-in-the-dark mice. We have all kinds of things that we have hybridized through genetic tinkering. This is no different than that, although to a most extreme version, but essentially it's just hybridization between a fly and a human. Although the 50s were set apart from the stuff of today, because back then it was all about the message. It was all about the metaphor for what the monster represents, and it was all about what the film was ultimately trying to say, which I really, really enjoyed. No matter what the film was, I always really, really dug what it was ultimately trying to say about people and about science, or about whatever its subject matter is. Whether it's, our push to be better, our push to advance ourselves, our push for more truth, or just an examination of, the juxtaposition between human hubris and the push for understanding, and how we can derail ourselves without even realizing it. I've always enjoyed those ones. Those ones make fantastic stories. But here's the big thing, despite all of the brilliant stuff, even though I have to say, the special effects artist who actually designed the head, who actually designed the fly, is reported he went out and said that he did not like the special effects, that he was not proud of the head, of like the fly design. He said it wasn't his best work, but audiences fucking loved it, and it was freaky as shit. And apparently that head that he was wearing was like really heavy, so it was difficult to like act in, apparently, for the actor. But once you had it there and on set and it got up really close in your face, people were freaked out about it. So people there's a strange believability to this that is afforded by the story itself, that it doesn't go too extreme, and that the special effects were so fantastic, make it plausible that this guy replaced his head and his arm with fly parts. So it's really, really interesting stuff, despite its absurdity. And of course, Vincent Price just sells it. It's kind of like, I actually consider him kind of like the harbinger in this, where he kind of like, he helps to drive it along, kind of like the plot chief wise, but nonetheless, he does it with absolute aplomb. He's fantastic actor. But here's the big kicker on this one, is that Cronenberg remade The Fly. So that was a huge thing. That was a huge, big thing in Cronenberg's like filmography, and especially in his body horror. He remade The Fly in 1986 with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. And in that one, he obviously eschewed the nuances of the storytelling for the body horror. That was ostensibly, that was what that was all about. It was just about body horror. But then again, if you think about it, when Cronenberg made that, we are in a post-Star Trek, post Battlestar, this is like Battlestar Galactica thing. I mean, all of that science fiction that was alluded to in the 50s, the vast majority of it is quickly becoming real and more acceptable. This was 1986. I mean, we're on the verge of the internet, cell phones not that far along. So the ideas of these things are becoming more and more acceptable. So Cronenberg eschewed all the story elements, all the examination of man's hubris, the examination of truth at the cost of self, and left all that out, and essentially just went with the extreme body horror of Jeff Goldblum turning into a freaking fly and, like vomiting all over his food, pulling out his teeth, his head coming apart and shit. Really horrific shit. One of Cronenberg's best films. Jeff Goldblum, kicking ass, taking name. Gina Davis was just awesome in that. But that's a big question that I wanted to ask. Two stories. Obviously, the special effects or the practical effects between the two, light years are between them. But I came at the original. I have going back into the original while having Cronenberg's in my mind because I've seen that one so many times. But there was something obviously different. Obviously, it's two different ways to tell a story because you're focusing on two different elements. So my question was, having gone back over and really dived into the original 1958 version, I now look at the Cronenberg one in a vastly different light. Okay, so there is an artistic element to the practical effects that Cronenberg's team brought to the body horror elements of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. And then, of course, there's also the practical effects in the original The Fly, but that was, the narrative was stronger and the points it was trying to come across, which made the film, in my opinion, stronger because it's actually commentary on humanity itself. There's a strong commentary there that we can follow along, where we can self-examine by watching the movie. Whereas unlike The Fly, the Cronenberg version, that's just about scary, gross, look at this horrible thing that's happening. And you already know by the time his head starts going blah, blah, like swelling out and shit, it's over and done with. That story obviously is not going to have a happy ending. Whereas the original Fly is told in flashback. So there's some elements that Cronenberg obviously changed and some things that he eschewed, which he's more than obviously, that's the direction they chose to go with it. Go with the body horror, freak people the shit out, have like legs coming out of, grown out of his body and shit. So my question though is, it made me curious, did Cronenberg lose the plot though? Because now I look at that as really more just, let's take the elements that we couldn't capitalize on in 1958 and let's make those really extreme and not worry about the story and what it says about us and what it says about people. So there's no real self-reflection in The Fly. There's just revulsion in The Fly. So he's opted for two different things. But that obviously, from my perspective, changes the story fundamentally and what it's meant to say. But of course, this is art. You can reinterpret stories any way you want. You can do it like that. I just found it interesting because watching the original and deep diving it changed my perspective on the 86 remake. Very similar to how Society itself like that changed my view between 1958's The Blob and 1988's The Blob. So maybe it was changing society that altered it and realized Cronenberg, these things are already understood. We don't need to retread that, but what we can tread new ground is the horrific special effects of his body changing and the horror of that, because they really couldn't do that in the 50s. So Cronenberg was just capitalizing on what could not be done then and leaving the story different. So there's a difference of opinion there. Like, you see many people in the audience, like DeNova 28 says, Cronenberg made the movie better, in my opinion. I can see that because he was able to do what they were totally unable to do in 1958. Imagine showing the crew in 1958 Cronenberg, if you could do that. Like, that would blow their minds at that level of those level of prosthesis and level of puppetry and that kind of the horrific shit that they showed. Casey Cooper brings up, second was just for the shock value. There you go. So there is a difference of opinion there. I think both films are fantastic. They both stand on their own. They just tell the same story in fundamentally different ways because one focuses on one aspect, the other focuses on another aspect, which makes sense. Focusing on the hubris of man and the march of science and that whole aspect falls really well with where we were as a country in the 1950s, post World War II, and the boom of that economy and where we currently are with scientific advancement. That makes sense. So, but now 1986 comes along, almost 30 years after the fact, same between The Blob and The Blob remakes that came out in 88. But now we're past all that. Now we're through the 60s. We're through the 70s. We are almost out of the 80s. And things have changed dramatically. We're past Korea, past Vietnam, and there's a fundamental difference in how we view things. Now We see the darkness more than we see, the opportunities to self-reflect. We see the horrible things that are out there, and Cronenberg seized on that, capitalized it. Both brilliant films, but I'd like to know, definitely, obviously, which one sat better with you, but it's an interesting juxtaposition. You compare the two as to what they say, not only about where we were when those movies came out, but obviously about their directors and what they were essentially trying to say. Tony Regime says, science always needs to be reminded that they don't always get the predicted results. Absolutely. Sir Cadam says the concept of hubris at the fringe of science research is still in both. I get that as well, because Seth's in the Cronenberg one, Seth, his arrogance is what leads him to make the mistake. So the hubris is there, but it's not really expounded upon. No one ever brings that up, because initially he makes the mistake and he goes, uh-oh, I screwed up. But then he realizes the advancement of it, and automatically he turns any mistake into a positive, because he cannot reflect upon himself. He's so narcissistic to the degree that he can't reflect on himself. But that's okay. He's turning into a giant fucking fly monster. So he gets what he deserves? There's a cynical tone to the Cronenberg version. Okay, where we don't need to talk about the hubris. Hubris is its own reward or its own punishment. It's going to come back and haunt you. And so that's what we get there, because he can't see past himself. Very interesting stuff. It's intriguing to watch the two, especially watch the two back to back. But the question that I want to ask the audience, this Fly film, the one with Vincent Price, was actually a part of a trilogy back in the day when studios did, trilogies were all the thing. 20th Century Fox did this bad boy, and this was the first in a trilogy. The second one was Return of the Fly, and the third one was Curse of the Fly. So I'm very, very curious. What is y'all's favorite entry in the Fly franchise? Did you like the first one? Did you like the second one, Return of the Fly? Or did you dig Curse of the Fly, the third one? So I'm very, very curious. Let me know down in the comments below, of course, at weekinhorror@gmail.com, which one you preferred. I prefer the original one. Had Vincent Price. It tells the original story. Really, really interesting stuff. Return of the Fly and Curse of the Fly just kind of expanded the mythology a little bit, but there's some decent moments in both of those, because Return of the Fly came out in 1959 and Curse of the Fly came out in 1965. So production values had increased quite a bit. But nonetheless, I think The Fly was the better of the three. But definitely let us know what you think down in the comments below, or at weekinhorror@gmail.com, or here in the live chat. Sir Little Wolf said, the lady getting pregnant kind of reminded me of Prophecy with the mutant bear. Yeah. Freaky. Denova says, I'll stick with Cronenberg. Awesome. Ivy actually says, I prefer the original. Awesome. Case Cooper says, the first one scared me, so I didn't watch the next one. I never saw the second. I dig on Vincent Price. Sir Kev says, I dig on Vincent Price. Gotta go OG. Fucking A. Hell yeah. Oh, yes. Awesome. So that was The Fly. Moving on to our second film. Lots of love for the original and for the remake. I totally get it. You gotta love it. Cronenberg, Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis. Such an amazing fucking movie. Not to mention the practical effects. It was up there with things like The Thing. Amazing shit. Plus that, just a gut-wrenching, just a sad ending. I can't do it. But let's jump on to our second film. And I'm so, I'm actually probably good that Johnny O's not around here, but nonetheless, this one's problematic for me, for anybody else who watched it, but this one's kind of problematic for me. Released July 18th, 2020, we have Ghosts of War. Let's check out this trailer.
The outpost is 30 miles over those hills. Let's move out.
Who are we babysitting this time?
Not a who, a mansion.
Yowza. It's bigger than my whole neighborhood in Queens.
It's supposed to be a big deal when the 82nd Airborne came through and pushed out the Nazi high command.
This is a life, boys.
You hear that?
Jagd um das Haus! Nein, Leute von LKW!
We need to talk.
We stay here, we're fish in a barrel.
We're staying.
What's that?
I found it in the basement. Belonged to one of the Nazis who took over the house. It says what happened to the family who lived here.
This ain't right, man. This place is bad juju.
I'm just gonna say what we're all thinking. This place is haunted. Everything we experience, it's what the Nazis did to the family that lived here. Let's get out of this house.
If you leave,
They're here.
I want everyone geared up and ready to clear out.
You can't leave. It won't let us leave. This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real.
All right. So that was the trailer for Ghosts of War, which is a obviously supernatural war horror film directed by Eric Bress and written by Eric Bress, starring a cast of excellent characters. Brendan Thwaites, Theo Rossi. Brendan Thwaites, which you probably remember from, actually it's really interesting because our next movie. Theo Rossi, you remember from Sons of Anarchy. Skylar Astin, Kyle Gallner, who has been in so many things and is one of my favorite films, the Conjuring Hour. The Cleansing Hour. And if you get an opportunity, he's in Alien Code, which is free on YouTube right now. So definitely check that out because that's a fun little, fun little sci-fi alien flick. Alan Ritchson of Reacher fame, Billy fucking Zane, and Shane Taub. And it was interesting. Okay, so I have to give it this. I am torn. Now, this movie came out in 2020. Typically, we have a moratorium on films, a 5-year moratorium on films, like giving away spoilers and stuff. The problem with this movie is not the setup. So let me see if I can break this down without giving away too much of it. The film follows. Hey, Ordinary Jeff, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here today. The film follows a group of soldiers who are traveling out to relieve another group at this house at this giant estate that is in occupied territory, or it's on the border of occupied territory. Essentially, it's an outpost that the Allies have taken over, and they're moving in. They've just completed their mission. Their next mission is to go and to relieve these guys. So there are soldiers that are already there, and they're going to relieve them. So those soldiers bug out, and they take over. They take a position there, and they await their orders. Pretty much it. So they're holding this house in occupied territory so that they can basically keep an eye out for German troops, and then eventually they themselves will be relieved. And it turns out the house is occupied by a sinister force, or it appears to be occupied by a sinister force. And there are all these interesting clues around like that, but eventually it turns out shit gets weird. All right? And the reason why it gets weird is, first and foremost, I have to tell you this. This production in itself, Ghosts of War, was a smartly written, and very impressive production. Period pieces are always extremely difficult to do and are always extremely expensive. Creating period authentic uniforms and period authentic weaponry and period authentic sets is always really, really tough, especially when you're shooting on location. The manor estate itself is an actual legitimate place. So it itself is kind of like the set itself is an amazingly it's old school. I think that the original structure was built back in the turn of the century. So it's this brilliantly old school house that has all this magnificent production appeal. So you've got everything that really lends itself to the production. You've got extremely well done uniforms. You've got very well done armaments. And of course, the depiction of the Allied soldiers and the Nazis. So really, really good stuff. And yes, that was a part of it, Liam Wakefield, is that when they arrive, the soldiers they're relieving, they boogaloo really quick. They're like, we're out of here. We're deucing out. And it's like, what the heck are they taking off so fast for? Because they were freaked out by the house. And they don't give their fellow soldiers any warning, which is hilarious to me. But nonetheless, It's a very impressively done, extremely good production value, practical effects as far as like when a character jumps on a grenade to save his fellow soldiers and the damage is done. There's a lot of excellent supernatural elements that are done extremely well. The combat is really, really good. The soldiers on both the Axis and the Allied powers, they all look fantastic. Everything is great. Very and smartly written. And I say smartly written because there were little details that come along during conversations. One particular one that I found interesting was a conversation with Kyle Gallner's character when he's talking to Aston's character. So they're having a moment because Kyle Gallner's playing kind of like this shell-shocked or this extremely PTSD'd out sniper who people are questioning his sanity. And he's having a discussion with Eugene, played by Skylar Aston. And he's having this discussion with Eugene where he's talking about this previous event that he was involved with that involved the death of a bunch of Nazi Hitler or Hitler youth. And so he's describing it, and he tells him, and this is where it got real weird, which kind of threw me off because the time period is 1944. Okay, that's when the movie's set. But Kyle Gallner's character, Tappert, the sniper, says, my dad raised me, really loved horror films. And he showed me a lot of them when I was younger. Movies like I Was a Teenage Werewolf. And he names another film. I missed it off the top of my head, but I was like, hang on a sec. This is 1944. I Was a Teenage Werewolf didn't come out until the 1950s, 1956, if I do remember correctly, because we covered it on this show. I was like, hang on it, that's wrong. And at first I'm thinking that the writer just screwed up. I was like, but why would they? Which wasn't out yet. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But that's where the film, so there's interesting little tidbits, not to mention, simply because I know, but there's a point where they find a word carved on the wall. It's like, the word is obviously important because they allude to it. But I know that word is neither Jewish nor German, or even Polish. That word is Arabic. So is the phonetic pronunciation of actually a word I believe is in Arabic. And I was like, I recognize that word. And it's Muslim, and I was kind of like, that has Muslim connotations, but why is that here? So there are little breadcrumbs throughout that allude to things not being what they seem. All of this was shaping up to be really interesting until the film drops the fucking ball in the third act. 2 solid acts that are well shot, well crafted, interestingly written to keep my attention, to really be like, wait, hang on, and to really be listening to what's going on. All this money dumped into a solid production to create this World War horror, this World War II supernatural horror, and then all of a sudden they drop the ball in the third act, which really fucking aggravated me. Because this movie, Ghosts of War, despite its great acting, strong writing, excellent production values, is ostensibly 2 films. The first 2 acts and the third act. It's 2 movies jammed together, which is really, really jarring when it happens because the tone shift is so strong. You feel like the transmission would just jump right out of this thing because all of a sudden we're in one film and then in a heartbeat, we're in another film, which is somewhat aggravating. And that is what's going on is not what we thought was going on. It's actually something completely different. So it literally jumps from a World War II horror film, World War II supernatural horror film, to a sci-fi horror film. And that tonal shift is extremely, I found it to be really, really aggravating. Because you had something really strong going in the first 2 acts. It was leading up to a very interesting climax, whatever it could have been. But it's quite possible that, I don't know, maybe somebody painted themselves to a corner. I'm not 100% sure if the writer, Eric Bress, which is, odd because he worked on the Butterfly Effect, but he also worked on the Final Destination series. So for someone with an excellent grasp, my autofocus keeps flaking. Well, I'm seeing my image here. I think it's okay. My autofocus, anyways. But given a writer who has such a grasp of linear storytelling, of one thing leading to the next, of almost Rube Goldberg perfection, because that's essentially what makes up the Final Destination franchise. That this is just so out of the norm to jump from one type of film to another type of film. And even then, what really annoys me is that it's not like the film just hits the third act and then just falls off precipitously. No, the third act is also really fucking good. So that's but this gulf between the two is what ultimately spoils things. If you can get over that gulf and you kind of forgive them for that, then yeah, you actually have a pretty damn enjoyable film. Really strongly acted, really, really well written, smartly written. I'll give it that. Nice little breadcrumbs and foreshadowing that plays through. Good balance, good pacing. But then all of a sudden, and not too many jump scares. Not a lot. No, they didn't overly rely on it, which is a good thing. And two compelling stories. A compelling story about soldiers in World War II being not only the ghosts that they encounter, but the ghosts that they carry with them, the idea of being haunted by their actions. But then in turn, you have the third one, the third act, which is soldiers dealing with, the limitations of what they could do while in battle, while in war, the bureaucracy of war, and how that leads us into situations that we ultimately, that we can't forgive ourselves. PTSD of modern day soldiers dealing with that and the bureaucracy of that nightmare with a bit of a sci-fi element, which is just two great stories. Two great stories, two separate movies, which is really, really annoying to me, which is really aggravating because you got to jump that gulf to really, really enjoy it, to really get it. I was kind of able to forgive them for that. And I don't want to spoil exactly what's going on in the third act. I'm just saying that two different stories. So when you watch this one, you'll hit that and it'll be like all of a sudden it'll just kind of like, boom, kind of hit you in the gut. Be like, what? I actually had to pause and be like, huh, wait, hang on. And wham, there you go. Which is really, really obnoxious. So nonetheless, a well-structured film, excellent production values, even the World War II sequence to the modern-day Afghanistan sequence. I think it's Afghanistan or the Middle East sequence. I think they might be in Afghanistan. But both of them fantastic, but you have this insurmountable gulf. But one thing I will credit is all of the extremely talented actors in this did a magnificent job in portraying characters in the 40s and everything that's kind of there, like from that perspective, from the perspective of the 40s and World War II, and contemporary characters in modern day warfare here. Like I believe it was Afghanistan. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong in that, but I believe they were in Afghanistan. So the job on the actors was to play soldiers in two completely worlds apart, different war perspectives. The difference between World War II and modern day warfare here in the Middle East and Afghanistan with advanced technology and the way we understand politics and all that other shit. The difference between the greatest generation and the generation of today. So that's the big difference. And they all do it extraordinarily well, which is a testament to the talent of the cast here. Excellently acted, really well delivered. The problem is the movie in and of itself is trying to be two different things jammed together, which I think is the only limitation on the film. I didn't think I had to break out the Turd Polish 9000 on this bad boy because it's a very entertaining movie. But nonetheless, narratively speaking, it's very, very jarring. Although I will say it got me, even with Billy Zane and his little bit. It's like Billy Zane is in the beginning of the film as a Nazi. I think he's a commandant who I guess Alan Ritchson's character. Alan Ritchson likes to get into like fist fights. Like he'll find a Nazi, be like, all right, we're gonna fight. Like put him up. And he'll like fight him, like box them. And Billy Zane was the one he boxed. I was like, but then he gets shot, and I was like, that's it? That's all Billy Zane was in? It was like that? No, it's not. So, but yeah, I was like, that was interesting. So yeah, interesting aspects. Hey, Orne Jeff says, my first one. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, bud. Really do appreciate it. You rock. So yeah, an interesting one. But here's my curiosity. War horror. Supernatural elements during war. Use of the military, use of war zones, whether they are past or present. are a common trope, are a common setting for a lot of horror films, and kind of make them interesting. Given that you essentially have the theme of the ghosts that haunt us from the actions of war, and the ghosts of those who have been sacrificed to the engine of war. So I love it's a beautiful setting that really solidifies certain aspects in the human pathos and the human experience. So I'm very curious though. War in itself is horrific. Saving Private Ryan, Platoon, Full Metal Jacket, such casualties of war. So many amazing, films that they're apocalypse now. But supernatural war is also really terrifying, although it's a bit more internal. It's about how these things affect us beyond like the grand scope of the atrocities that take place. So I'm really curious, do you as an audience prefer supernatural or natural war horror? Let us know down in the comments below. Jacob's Ladder is another one. Thank you very much. Thank you, Angel Rivera. Let us know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Supernatural war horror or natural war horror? Very, very curious what you think. Let us know down below. Ooh, Letters of Iwo Jima. Absolutely. Band of Brothers. She-Wolf of the SS. Fuck yeah. Oh, so many good. There's a lot of good ones. A lot of fantastic. There's a lot of supernatural ones too. You've got fucking Dead Snow. You've got, which is essentially, it's always fun when Nazis are the monsters, and you get to see them. So, but yeah, supernatural horror or supernatural war horror or tripping over my tongue. Supernatural war or natural war in the horror genre. Jason Takes Normandy. Oh, that would be fucking sick. World War II with Jason Voorhees. And no, it does not necessarily have to involve Tom Cruise. A lot of love for the supernatural. Dead Snow. Yes, I would say Dead Snow is considered one. It absolutely is. All right. Let's move on to our next one. Let me clear that one out and jump to this bad boy. For our third film tonight, we've got... Let me remove that. Sorry. Released July 19th, 2019. So we're almost to the moratorium, but I don't think there's too much we need to worry about this one. Kind of the highlight of this week, we have Office Uprising. Let's check out this trailer.
Do you ever feel alone at work?
Yes, man!
Like you just don't fit in?
What are you looking at, Buzz Nuts?
Like the girl of your dreams doesn't really notice you.
Once again fighting a losing battle with Mondays.
Like your coworkers.
I know, I won't lie, I have such a crush
are all
on
a
her.
bunch of psychos. Maybe they are.
He was Jerry Solomon. His spelling was atrocious. Errors everywhere. He had to go. You have any idea what the hell's going on? The county has gone batshit nuts!
Go away.
I'm looking!
Come on, we have to leave. This place is full of lunatics. Now, come on, let's go. Let go! Oh my God! Sam?
I love the Family Guy drop.
No.
Zolt, awaken the warrior within.
Zolt was designed for soldiers. Makes them aggressive. But this first batch, shit went sideways.
Let's do this.
I love Greg Clark.
What the hell's going
We
on?
need to leave right now.
I don't even want to think about how that happened.
Should we help him?
I don't know such a crush on Jane Levy.
I need to win the game. So come on, let me see your work face. Right now. Let me see. Okay.
So bitter. Kurt Muller. Zachary Levi in a mech. All right. So, hey, Sarah Velez, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here tonight. Yes, Travis Brown, you're right. This film is similar to another film on show. It's going to get a lot of comparisons to that. But that was the trailer for Office Uprising, which directed by Lynn Oding and written by Peter Gamble Robinson and Ian Shore, starring Brendan Thwaites, Jane Levy, Big crush on her. Karen Sony, Kurt Fuller, who I friggin' loved him in everything he ever does. Alan Ritchson, that's interesting because Brendan Thwaites and Alan Ritchson were both in Ghosts of War, which I found really interesting. That kind of lined up like that. Greg Henry is amazing. I love Greg Henry. Ian Harding and Zachary Levi of Chuck fame, and of course Shazam fame now. But Zachary Levi is always fantastic. He's so wonderfully entertaining, especially a psychotic Zachary Levi in a mech suit is that's just brilliant filmmaking that's just brilliant filmmaking in my book. The film follows Desmond, played effortlessly by Brandon Thwaites, who's basically a slacker, a weed smoking slacker who works for the company, the corporate office. Ammo Tech is a weapons design company and weapons manufacturer. And one day, one of the things they've invented, which is this energy drink called Zolt, which is intended to give soldiers the boost they need in the battlefield. Apparently a batch went bad and gets distributed out to the company itself, and everybody turns into violent psychopaths while maintaining their personalities. So the different levels of people, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in sales, or whether you're in accounting, or whether you're one of the higher ups, everybody maintains their personalities, only they're also violent psychopaths, which makes it even more hilarious because you've got the marketing bros who the whole sequence when he is like, it starts off, marketing was like, slogan me, and like throwing the basketball around and be like, yeah, slogans are awesome. And then it turns around when everybody's lost their minds, they're using a severed head instead, which is hilarious. But obviously Desmond and his crush Samantha and his best friend Murad, played awesomely by, I have to give it to it, Karan Soni, for you remember from Deadpool now, who played I lost his name. Dopinder from Deadpool, but they have to try and survive, like get out and survive without dying, and it's a very, very fun. No matter who wins, janitorial loses. Absolutely right, Sir Little Wolf. That's absolutely correct. So obviously, there's going to be some comparisons to the Steven Yeun film, Mayhem, where ostensibly it's kind of the same thing. Only that one was done with a more black comedy effect. This one was more, fun comedy. Because you have the slacker dude, played by, greatly by Brendan Thwaites. You have Jane Levy, who is ostensibly, when she's like lost her mind because she only drank half of a can. So she's not quite infected as everybody else is. And so she's kind of like wavering in between. So whenever she gets pissed off, she goes psycho. Whenever she calms down, she's okay. But pretty much just, pulling from everything from her Evil Dead performance, from her performance in the remake of Evil Dead. And then, of course, Murad Karan Soni is just, awesome. And everybody else doing their character work. Kurt Fuller is amazing as well. Everyone knows how to do this. And, of course, Zach Levi, who just fucking kills it as Adam Nussbaum, or a Nussbaum, which is a running gag because it's Adam Mr. Nussbaum. So really, really fun stuff. Unfortunately, there were no swing line stapler references, but this movie is definitely, ostensibly, Office Space meets Zombieland with the kind of energy they have going on. Whereas Mayhem with Steven Yeun and Samantha and Samara Weaving, that film was a black comedy, but that focused more heavily on the disparity between those in charge and those doing the work. Where that's the driving force of the violence, is that disparity. Whereas in this one, it lampoons that by showing that disparity also shows that the efficacy and capability of the workers is higher, and the self-awareness is higher in the workers than it is in those up top. That those are people that, despite the fact that they're way up here on the food chain and everybody else is down here, these cats have no idea what the fuck they're doing and they don't care. They're completely and totally incompetent. So they highlight that, which is what makes it funny. Whereas in Mayhem, it focused more on the corruption and was a bit darker in its comedy. Because I think one side just kind of caters more. Mayhem just catered more to the darkest aspects of our impulses, whereas Office Uprising caters to kind of like the humorous side. So it's kind of like the same movie, but one's a silver lining and one is the dark cloud itself. But yeah, it's technically Office Space meets Zombieland, and with that same kind of energy and mentality, which makes it a lot of fun. Jane Levy is fantastic in it, though. With the thing that really sells it, obviously shot similar to Zombieland, where you have moments where you step away from the action, you get kind of like the third person view of what's going on, then you dive back into it. So you have that kind of like audience, that popcorn filler right there. But the writing is what really sells it. The writing is strong in this, and the way the characters come across, you can tell that everybody is just having fun. It is a popcorn film, obviously, that is a fun homage to our darkest desires, what we'd really like to do to our bosses if we were completely removed of all of our inhibitions, which makes it fun, you know? It's an entertaining voyeuristic film. It's just kind of like, yeah, I felt that way. I wanted to, stab 500 pencils into, my coworkers because they annoy the absolute fucking shit out of me. It's kind of like if Peter in Office Space was was a complete psychopath, and what he likely would do. But it's a fun film. It's a fun film, good solid production all the way through. I love films in case, especially when you have different films similar to the Raid or Dread, where you have your protagonist moving from section to section. Each new section that they move through, very much like a platformer game, each section that they move through brings in a new challenge. Whereas in this particular one, the different challenge are the people that they encounter. So like the marketing people pose a different threat than the HR people, than the sales team, so on and so forth. The mentalities are pushed to their extremes, which makes them even more funny, especially when administration, which is, or technically, because Zach Levi is the head of accounting. So when accounting with Zachary Levi, who's the regional manager, encounters the marketing team, so you have the Zach Levi and Alan Richardson face off, and the two of them are just so extreme in how they convey their characters, which is very, 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 very funny. So anybody who's familiar with Office Life will definitely point these out. It's like, obviously, Alan Richardson does bro shit really, really well as he's pulling from his Blue Mountain State background. And then, of course, Zach Levi from his Chuck career and the other films from his time on Chuck and other things he's done, where he pulls from that kind of like nebbish nerdiness turned violent psychopath. Really, really interesting stuff. It's fun. It's really all it's meant to be. It's just a fun little popcorn flick that kind of like, caters to those little moments, to our darker moments. We'd like to, stick a pencil in our boss's eye. It's pretty much it. Yeah. So I know that the other guys at Week in Horror will really fucking love this movie. But yeah, that's just ostensibly what it is. It's well shot and a lot of fun. And I found it so weird that Alan Richardson and Brendan Thwaites were both in this one. And obviously like 1 year later, they were together in a film again in Ghosts of War. And just goes to show, really well acted, because the characters that they portray in both of those are so wildly different. So I really dug that. Getting to see in the same week 2 movies starring the same 2 guys, starring the same 2 actors, and 2 extremely different characters. Just goes to show their range. Now, in Office Uprising, the characters are a bit more simplistic. Alan Richardson just has to pull from Blue Mountain State, and Brendan Thwaites just has to be your garden variety slacker. I'm young and whatever. Really, really easy to do. Not really that deep. And of course, everybody's just kind of pulling on the stuff that they have success elsewhere. Whereas, Moomin just pulls from Dopinder from Deadpool. Jane Levy just pulls from Evil Dead, and so on and so forth. Whereas the Ghost of War required a bit more depth, but just goes to show these guys can go there. So it was fun to watch them kind of like, take off the, it's still, take out, not to be so deep and not to have to work so hard. It's fun to watch these actors who are capable of such great performances be able to just kind of chill and relax and have fun and deliver funny lines and just be hilarious. Let me see here. Liam Wakefield says, 1 plus 2/3 plus 1/3 according to JL. I'm not sure. Misspelled words when using a word process is definitely an unforgivable sin. Oh, yes. The spelling errors everywhere. The argument they have over the proper usage of whom, because he killed him because of typos, is like, and he can't stand typos. He's got the pencil in his hand, and then he's reading over this report that Brendan Thwaites' character that he just dropped off. Let me see your report. And he's not like 5 sentences in when he comes across whom, like the improper usage of whom. And so they have this argument about the usage of whom, which obviously leads to him trying to kill Brendan Thwaites' character, which is fucking hilarious. So many good, just over the top moments. That then, of course, it descends into the third act when Zachary Levi's in a fucking mech suit and they have to try and destroy, and they have to try and kill him, which is just fucking great. Strange Like 79 says, what was the name of the movie set in an office building in Mexico and corporate was killing everyone? I remember that one. See, Uprising was one with Stephen Yeun and Samara Weaving, and then there was one called son of a bitch. What was that? The Belko Experiment. The Belko Experiment was a similar film as well. That was done by Greg McLean, who people, that was Greg McLean is the mind behind Wolf Creek. So the Belko Experiment goes heavy in the gore and violence factor. And then a little bit into the kind of like the conspiracy behind the whole thing that goes down. But you can see the different brands there. Greg McLean, who leaned into the real horrific violence. And Mayhem was, that released in 2017 was Joe Lynch. So Joe Lynch focused heavily on the darker aspects of the commentary, which is what Joe Lynch does. And then, of course, you've got Office Uprising, which was Lynn Oeding. And Lynn Oeding, who kind of new, but he was worked on more action stuff and more not really character-driven stuff, but more like action set pieces. So, because he's a stunt performer, because he himself is a stunt actor, and he worked on stuff like Pirates of the Caribbean and Star Trek. He was a stunt double for John Cho, and of course worked on Ant-Man. So he's used to action pieces like Olympus Has Fallen and The Equalizer, and so you can see those elements work them way that how those inform the types of film, even though they're essentially telling the same story. So, but yeah, interesting stuff. But I really, really enjoyed this one. I think y'all would dig it. But it made me, hey, Dickbag Patrol, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. So I'm really curious. I have to ask, because I was sitting here asking this myself. In this situation, working in an office, you're working in the office, shit gets real. Whether it's, something they pumped into the atmosphere, something they pumped into the air conditioning, or something that was distributed that turns everybody violent psychopaths. The interesting, fun thing is the vast majority of people. Hey, Boomer, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here today. Appreciate it. The interesting thing is the vast majority of people in this, even though they work at a weapons manufacturing plant, not a lot of them have weapons, because obviously they don't just leave weapons lying around for everybody to have access to. So the vast majority of the violence, just like in Mayhem, just like in the Belko Experiment, the vast majority of weaponry is what you can find around the office, which always makes things really fun. Like Office Uprising, which makes creative use of several clipboards. So my curiosity is, what would be your office weapon of choice in a situation like this? Whether it's the Belko Experiment, whether it's Mayhem, or whether it's Office Uprising, what is your preferred office weapon of choice? Let me know down in the comments below, or of course at weekinhorror@gmail.com here in the live chat. Really curious. Sarah Velez just came out strong. Letter opener. It says letter opener, 100%. Travis Brown says pencils because of John Wick. But the question is, are you John Wick? That's the big question there. But I like letter openers. It's good. Travis Brown says pencils. Sir Little Wolf says paper cutter blade. Megan style. Yeah, I can see that. Tony Regime says big stapler. Big stapler. Red swing line stapler. Thank you, Sarcasm. But yeah, think about that. What weapon would you pick up and utilize in that situation? What's your favorite? What would be your office weapon of choice? Charlie Welch says an 80s computer monitor to the face. Fucking love it. Sarah Vell is right. Pencils will break. Letter opener is perfect stabby weapon. This is true. Red stapler. My stapler. So yeah, really good. Strange Like says blade from the large paper cutter. Take it off the platform. Yep, Megan style. That kind of deal. So let me know. Let us know down in the comments below what your preferred office weapon would be in this particular situation. Absolutely. Good stuff. This was a fun one. This is the highlight of the, well, other than The Fly. The Fly was just enjoyable to go back and watch that classic, but Office Uprising was just a fun little popcorn film. Well shot, well crafted, good. Doesn't drop the plot, doesn't drop the pacing. It's a very, very simple movie to make. Very sit down, just enjoy it and be like, yeah, I thought about doing that too. Absolutely. Fuck HR. Fuck admin. Fuck sales and marketing. Fuck those guys. Funny. It's excellent stuff. And plus, I'll always enjoy a movie that's got Jane Levy in it. Ever since I know Evil Dead, it's weird to think about that, but her, like Jane Levy in Evil Dead, Jane Levy in Don't Breathe. So, absolutely. All right. Paper cut. People are loving the paper cutter blade, the big paper cutter blade, like they have in schools. Brass letter opener. Ooh, brass letter opener. That's good. Hell yeah. Letter opener, stabby, stabby. What about a fire extinguisher? Blind and club. Good stuff. Fire extinguishers could be good. Fire axe could be good if you can find if your area has one. Folding chair works really, really well. Keyboard is pretty good, but you can only use it a couple of times before it eventually will shatter. Computer monitor is a good one-time use, but if you have to carry a weapon with you, I'm liking fire extinguisher because you can as long as you can keep it, you can blind people and you can club them with it. Good stuff. Joshua Lee, PC load letter. What the fuck does that mean? Air compressor into hoo-ha. I like it, Charlie Welch. Excellent. All right. What do you say we dive on to our final film tonight? The last one, bit of a dip here, but still nonetheless entertaining. I don't think I have to bust out the Turd Polisher 9000. I don't think it's necessary for this one. But yeah, released July 21st, 2015. We have the sequel film, Sinister 2. Let's check out this trailer.
Oh, baby.
Boys, let's get ready for bed.
Can we just watch till the next commercial? Come on.
I don't like it when you boys watch stuff like that before bed, okay? So let's go, come on.
It's not real, Mom. It's okay if it's not real.
Do you believe in evil? Something otherworldly?
Yes.
He's a priest, of course he does.
You can only protect yourself from it.
I'm worried about Dylan.
Why?
He's just different.
I have something to show you.
There are references to Bagul across all cultures. Some believe that it fed off of the corruption of innocence.
Children, have you ever met the bogeyman before? No, of course you haven't, for you're much too good, I'm sure. Hush, hush. Boogeyman.
There are always three things in common. There's a murdered family, a house, and some form of offering. What does she say? It's coordinates to where? A farm, where an entire family was murdered.
Nobody ever comes out here. That was terrible what happened.
It's the kids. He gets the kids.
This one's mine.
Your family's in danger.
Why?
He's gonna hurt us.
I won't let that happen.
And you see it coming.
Hush, hush, hush. Here comes the boogeyman. Don't let him come too close to you. He'll catch you if he can. He'll catch you if he can. Catch you if he can. Catch you if he can.
All right, so that was a trailer for Sinister 2, the sequel to obviously Sinister, and this particular one, directed by Kieran Foy, written by Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill, based on their characters, and then of course starring James Ransone, Shannon Sossamon, Tate Ellington, and Lucas Zaid Zuman. And John Beasley, who played Father Rodriguez in it. And then, of course, you have Nicholas King, I believe, returning as Bagul or Mr. Boogie. So the film itself follows after the events of the first film and the death of Ellison and his family and the disappearance of his daughter, and how it dives, exploring further the mythology behind Bagul, the dark Mesopotamian god that corrupts innocence and feeds off children from its dark dimension by stealing one away and essentially corrupting them by driving them to kill their families by making them watch these old recordings of other kids who have done the exact same thing. The big trope of the original Sinister films was obviously the old school 8mm that of the children recording their the gruesome murders or the gruesome killings of their families. And so like the first Sinister gave the big lawnmower scene was what like the lawnmower kills was one of the more extremes, which the lawnmower going along, and then all of a sudden you see the face appear, someone lying there, and then the lawnmower goes over their face. So really horror, terrible stuff. That was the driving force of the first film, and the mystery, the mysterious nature of this entity and what it's doing. Obviously, it's stealing children, and they call it Mr. Boogie because we're reminiscent of the Boogeyman, but of course it is Bagul, who is this Mesopotamian demon or Mesopotamian god that feeds off innocence. So it's a dark god from its dark dimension. Or 16 millimeter film. My bad. No, not 8, but 16 millimeter vinyl records, ham radio broadcasts, all the old school analog shit, which is really interesting stuff. Now, the problem is Sinister worked extremely well. Hey, Skooma Cat, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. That was Becky had some good ones too. Yes, that movie is fantastic. The big difference in this one is that obviously Sinister worked extremely well. Ethan Hawke is fantastic, and the building of tension and the mysterious, the sense of the unknown, the growing sense of dread were all there in the original Sinister, which is what made that movie so fantastic, because there were a lot of questions that weren't answered. We just knew that there's this evil force, and there was not an over-reliance on jump scares, but it relied on the near almost cosmic dread of this entity driving these children to do the absolute unthinkable, and that is murder their family, to drug and murder their families. And the home movies, which indicate that they were absolutely, like in terrifying ways, really just horrific ways. So the problem is Sinister 2 tries to do we've already seen that, so we need to add into those elements. The problem that I see is that even though they were utilizing characters that were already the characters that were established in the first film, my problem was where Sinister 2 drops the ball is that it does not explore where it needs to explore, but instead builds a film where it doesn't do it as much as it should, but instead builds a film that's ostensibly just jump scares and forced pathos, which is what was problematic. In the first film, the only conflict we really have is between Ethan Hawke and his family, because he's trying to write this true crime deal, and he keeps uprooting the family. He keeps uprooting the family and moving. He keeps uprooting the family and moving to another location, following the true crime story so we can write this book. Now he's in this house. Okay, so the issue is of the father's creation, whereas in this one, the evil itself is driven. It kind of changed things because the evil itself drives itself. It jumps from place to place to place, from house to house to house. And so that's whenever they discover the tapes, the child is corrupted. If the family leaves the house, that's when it goes down, and then the evil continues on from there. Then the home videos are left there for the next family, so on and so forth. So things are a little disrupted in the mythology from here, just to try and expand on these horror elements. And the horror elements they throw in are just, more and more jump scares, which I found to be really annoying, because we don't need so many. We know who Boogie is, we know who Mr. Boogie is, or Bagul. So we know it's his ever-lurking presence. We don't need it to constantly jump up in your face, especially when you have ghost children running around corrupting the youth that's currently in the house. And then, of course, on top of that, you have the forced pathos of Shannon Sossamon's, mother, who's running from her abusive husband, because we need to get at least one, kill out of this thing. So why not force the character in the situation where her husband is a complete douchebag, so that we can get that kill and then, and feel okay about it. That's what's problematic here. And of course, they don't really go any further than that, which I found obnoxious. Even though there's some elements that, some of the home movies kills were interesting, but we've already gone to that extreme, trying to find new and inventive ways to do that were not explored before. That's why we have like the sequence where the kid has managed to string up his entire family above a lake, and then alligators are jumping out and biting them. That's ridiculous, as opposed to drug them, tied them all up, flooded the kitchen, and then electrocuting them because they were doing renovations on there. That's another thing. That's different. So they were real. Yes, Liam Wakefield. They were really trying to overstuff it, trying to find new ways that could be really gruesome, which is kind of like and then trying to force this pathos down our throats so that we can get our one good kill, our one like murder, and feel okay about it. Then the kid who goes bad winds up getting corrupted, and then because he fails, he winds up decomposing and just blah, and just dying. But we don't feel too terrible about that because the kid was was becoming a douchebag all along because the weaker brother wouldn't fulfill what he was supposed to do for the demon. So ultimately, they did not go in the direction they were supposed to go. So that's what makes me conclude that Sinister 2 was just it just overcooked the tropes, and it was just done as a cash grab. So they were, instead of doing what they could have done, is that built an interesting film where they explored the need to explore that could have opened the door for a third film, possibly an origin story. Examining elements like, why does the ham radio that initially produced the signal, very similar to a number station, why does that thing have like the brand maker, like the manufacturer brand? Why is the symbol of that manufacturer the same symbol that Bagul's the Bagul's followers leave at all the crime scenes, like a signature? Why is the embossed manufacturer stamp on the ham radio the same thing? How does that connect into it? How does that play into it? They don't explore elements that they could have explored in favor of just setting up these elements, which is kind of like, why setting up these forced emotional elements was like, oh, I get, because they're driving us to get to a particular conclusion, which it was just annoying. It more takes you out of the film and does a disservice to the initial film because they set up something so ripe in the first movie that they could have explored in this one. Instead, they just go for the money by saying jump scares and let's just double down on all the stuff on the few things that made the first film interesting. But then they explore the ghost kids, which is the most fucking annoying aspect. The ghost kids coming in and say, "Oh, it's the ghosts of the children that are influencing the next child to commit the murders by showing them the home movies." Instead of allowing it to happen organically, where the child is watching, comes across them and is kind of compelled to watch them. No, we got ghost children going like, "Ha, yeah, you do it," and like driving them to do it, which is obnoxious. It then becomes a matter of like peer pressure instead of like a focus of will, like of human will versus the will of like this dark Mesopotamian god who really only has any power if you're afraid of it. So, damn it, they did not go in the direction that they should have gone. Though it's well shot, good production values, lots of like dark and creepy areas, and interesting stuff. The torture with the rats, putting the rats on the stomachs, and then they have the rats dig their way out. Seeing that to fruition, like how far that goes when they're like bursting out of the sides of people. There's some gruesome shit in this film, but it's really just filler. It's just there to kind of fill the space. They never go into the history behind everything that they should have. That could have opened up things to like legitimate interesting exploration. But we just had to the boogeyman is a lazy killer. Yep. He just lets the kids do it, which is not. And then when the kid fails, then he's like, haha, you're mine anyway. Or you just dissolve and die. I don't fucking know. By choosing to go in this route, the filmmakers paint themselves into a corner that does not allow for a solid resolution. And even then, at the very fucking end, when the deputy guy who's helping out the family, says, "Okay, I got to get some things out of my room," goes back into his motel room to get the last of his shit, and then turns around and tells him, "Oh, the ham radio is there." Oh, well, why wasn't it there? Because the other guy, the professor that he talked to, he owned it, and then all of a sudden it's here. It's supernatural in design because the manufacturer is Bagul himself or whatever. Like he conjured it into reality, and then all of a sudden one last jump scare. Bah! He jumps in from the side like, ha, Boogie. Just come on, who are you playing to? Don't take this excellent premise that you generated in this first film and then just fucking throw it out the window as a goddamn cash grab because it's obvious. It's not even hidden in that. It's just like, oh, I see what you're trying to do here. Which just is more annoying than it is compelling. So unfortunately, Sinister 2 does not. I didn't necessarily hate it. I didn't hate the film, but there are problems from a writing perspective and from just a filmmaking perspective, in how you try to force pathos down the audience's throat, which I think does a disservice. Now, if this were the first film, if they did this in the first movie, we just cast off as like, oh, I see, jump scary movie. A little bit like Insidious, or like The Conjuring, where it's just like, haha, it is, yes, Strange Legs, it is wasted fucking potential. They had such a good energy coming out of the first film that now all of a sudden they got to like fall into the Insidious and Conjuring trap and just go jump scares all the way. That's what's going to bring the dollars in. Well, the box office shows you, no, that doesn't work all the time. In fact, jump scare fatigue has long set in. Thank you to James Wan and Lee Wannell and the individuals who work with them. Jump scare fatigue has set in. We're done with them. We want interesting, compelling horror that draws us in. Okay, where we are terrified by the creeping dread, not by something that flashes in the screen or jumps out at us. It's just not necessary, which is what's really, really obnoxious about this one, because such a good territory. It's like you have all this greatness, and then you just burn it all down. Because at this point, now even a third one is just annoying. So, Liam Wakefield says, yeah, don't force feed me pathos in my demonic jump scare movie. Pretty much. It's just kind of annoying. It's like, that's why it was put off by it. Although I'm a fan, I like Shannon Sossamon. I liked her work. She's an excellent actress. Everybody in here is serviceable in their work. But you can see they telegraph the entire film because you can see where it's going and why they're doing things. And it's just lazy. It's lazy writing intended only to just capitalize on the power of the first film, the strength of the first film, and just makes some more bucks. Which is instead of really trying to focus on something interesting, at least we can say in the Insidious and Conjuring franchises, they're legitimately trying to explore new territory and do new interesting things. Yes, it's overloaded with jump scares. Yes, we can almost predict when they're going to happen, but at least they're trying to do new things, camera-wise, editing-wise, acting-wise, bringing in fresh talent, exploring new things that they try to build that universe by adding and exploring additional mythology. But that was what is obnoxious about this one, is that they waste that potential. Yes, Dig Back Patrol. I have seen The Endless. I absolutely love those guys. Moorhead, Benson and Moorhead are fantastic directors and writers. I've loved all their work. So Benson and Moorhead are fucking phenomenal. As a matter of fact, their movie Synchronic, I just watched that a couple of days ago. Synchronic was really fantastic. I thought that was really enjoyable with Anthony Mackie. That was an excellent, although it was a little heavy-handed on its message, but otherwise a really compelling movie. I thought it was really good. But Benson and Moorhead do fantastic work. Love all their stuff. But the thing I want to ask, while I did say that a third film would technically be kind of like impossible at this point for the Sinister franchise, given we've seen sequels that misstep and we can still get a third film that kind of like salvages the franchise. But the question is, would we want a third film to the Sinister franchise? Would we want a Sinister 3, maybe as a prequel, or possibly as like a continuation of it, or maybe like the finality of it, like the banishing of this dark god or whatever? I'm curious. Let me know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com if you think, if you're a big enough fan of the Sinister franchise, you can overlook the stumblings of the second film, and maybe we could get a third film. Maybe just to solve it up, just to like finish it up. You put a cap on the mythology or explore the origins of the mythology. Let me know down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com. Third film in the Sinister franchise or not? Yay or nay? Take it one step further or let it die. Let me know. And a huge giant thank you to everybody who has gifted memberships to everyone here. Wrote it no last name. Good to see you, bud. Wrote no last name says, I need deep symbolic links to Greek mythology to explain the nail gun massacre. That's funny because it's also a reference to like Mandy. Because in the movie, like if you like, Mandy was excellent by itself, but it's even better if you get the deep current of Greek mythology references throughout that entire film. So much. Kronos, Rhea, the Kyries, Ambrosia of the God, the Ambrosia. So much stuff in that. Oh, fucking, Janus, the armor of the god. There's so many Greek references in that fucking movie. Dionysus, all that shit. The Gnostic Christians. So, it's a fucking Greek tragedy, is what it is. So Mandy, if you love Mandy, if you get the Greek references, like the deep Greek mythology references, especially with the kind of like heavy metal twist, thanks to Cosmos. What damn it? I fucked up his name. Cosmatos. You know what? I'm not going to fuck it up. Let me see here. Sorry. Panos Cosmatos. Thank you. Panos Cosmatos. Gotta love him and his fight. He took from his dad. But yeah, but like if you get the underpinning of that, that's why I love that. Let it die, let it die, let it die. Thank you, Casey Cooper. So there will be an answer. Let it die. Absolutely. Strange Luck says yes, but I want the backstory in the god. Oh, for an origins take. Interesting. So yeah, I'm curious. People may dig it, people may not. I, for one, think they should let the franchise lie. They spoiled the opportunity to go further with an obvious cash grab in 2, which kind of killed its momentum for me. Now, if we get a third one, then we get a third one. But I don't think there are better things that we could that studios could put money towards. That is not necessary. And so, in my opinion, a third one would just be another cash grab, which would just be and you have a really good franchise that's just been killed. So I would say just let it die now. Let it go out quietly. We don't need to go back to that. We're all good. Joshua Lee says, will there be another movie? Saw 10, anyone? LO, sometimes people just watch a movie based on the name frame. This is true. I will definitely go and see Saw 10. I absolutely will. The return of Tobin Bell is fucking amazing. I love him. Tobin Bell is just one of my favorite horror icons. Ronan Lessam says, oh boy, Professor JL has hit the lectern. I absolutely have. When it's just me, you know it's going to be like up here on the blackboard. It absolutely will be. All right. So, given that we are done with our movies today, you guys know what time it is. It's the time that everybody waits for. It is trivia time. I hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you, Alex, for that inspiration. I do appreciate that. But yes, it is trivia time. All right. The time that everybody who watches this live stream waits for, the opportunity to win some swag from the Week in Horror store. We have so many cool things there. Stickers, t-shirts, drinkware, all kinds of fun stuff. Check out the store, I got those prices lowered as low as they could possibly go, so I can at least get a tiny line. I think we get like less than $1 profit off of each one, because we want to make them. Because typically Teespring is kind of expensive, so we try to lower them, lower it so we can just get you the stuff. But this is the opportunity that you have here in the live chat to win something from the store on us. So this is it. So the first person in the live chat to get the correct answer to tonight's trivia question will win a mystery item from the Week in Horror store. Are you ready? Are you ready? Get those Google fingers ready. Tonight's trivia question is, what British-French author wrote the short story that The Fly was adapted from? What British-French author wrote the short story that The Fly was adapted from? First correct answer in the live chat, and it's already there. Boom. Y'all kill this. Tony Regime. Yes, George Langeland. George Langeland wrote the initial short story that The Fly was adapted from. Excellently done. And it said I only won because someone had pity on me and gave it away. That's true. Langeland. Scampering. Langoliers. Scampering. So congratulations, Tony Regime. Let me get your name down. Tony Regime. Well done. Congratulations on winning that. We will get that printed and shipped out to you ASAP. Okay. I think I need to come up with more difficult trivia questions, because sometimes you guys get it so damn fast. I need to come up with next week, episode 200 is going to be really fucking obscure. It's going to be a hard one. It'll take a moment, because you get them so quick, man. I know people out there are like, oh, it's already gone. We had some big horror fans here that know this shit. So, Tony said, I read it before I saw either film. That makes sense. Absolutely does. I promise there'll be a challenging one coming up. That's, I got to make it challenging so there'll at least be some time for someone to get some stuff. So congratulations once again, Tony Regime. Well done. You were the first one to get it, so we'll get that printed out and shipped out to you ASAP. Well, you know what that is. That's pretty much it. that horror theme is going to close out another week's episode of the Week in Horror podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us. We truly hope that you enjoyed the show. And if you did, smash that like and subscribe button. And be sure to hit that bell so you never miss a future episode. We're only like 63 away from 1,000 subs. Help us get there. Thank you so much. Join us next week when we look back at the claustrophobic vampire horror, Blood Red Sky, the exorcism horror, The Vatican Tapes, the ultra-gory steampunk nightmare of Frankenstein's Army. Fuck, I cannot wait to talk about that one. And the serial killer horror, Blackout. Be sure to check out Josh Olsen's store at badsamurai.store. He does all the awesome artwork that you see splattered all over our merch, which you can find over at Teespring. And for more from Week in Horror, check out all the bloody links that are down in the description. Follow us on the socials for the daily splatter, your daily horror recommendation. Join our Discord for watch parties, news, big announcements, and all kinds of horror shenanigans. And support the show through our PayPal link or through our Patreon, or now through channel memberships, which are now available here on the show. Super chats as well. Join the higher tiers on Patreon, though, for early content access and behind-the-scenes fun with the crew. And even just support the show for as little as $1 a month, either on Patreon or here on YouTube. 99 cents a month. That's it. You can support us. What are you waiting for? Join us. And as always, thank each and every single one of you for being the greatest fucking audience that a horror film podcast could possibly have. I have been your host, JL. The guys, everybody, will return for next week's 200th episode. We love you all so much. We will see you next week. And as always, stay scared.